want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. Hey, I am Kirk M. Samuels.
And I am Jason B. Kendrick.
And we are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you. And if you're live right now, you see we got a third man.
That's right.
We got the man in the house. Because we've had him on before, but we want to bring him back on because he's that good. It makes us that much better.
The myth, the legend. The one and only. If you anywhere around town, like there's some towns where, you know, if you in that town, you know, and it's one of those, if you know, you know. If you're around Denver, you got to know the one and only Mr. Barry L. Overton, the one and only. How you doing, sir?
Doing great, man. It's a pleasure to be back here. You know, I love what you guys are doing, and love to just be able to, you know, we have those conversations off air. And so when we can go on air and kind of share it with the world, it's even better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and we're so happy to have you back. I know we had audio difficulties last time. We didn't have a cooperative iPhone at that moment. So we're bringing you back. But also because, not just because of the audio, but because we didn't get a real good chance to like dig deep into who Barry L. Overton is. Right. We didn't really get to dig in. And you've got a great story. And since we've been on this up-leveling men and really focusing on bringing guys in who have great stories and great experience to share, I mean, tonight's episode of beliefs and mindset, I mean, coming from your background, I mean, you must have to have a very strong mindset and good beliefs to kind of get to where you're going. Or maybe you had to develop that. I mean, that's why I wanted to bring you in, because maybe this is a great story of how you got from where you were to the man around town that you are now.
First and foremost, I mean, you're a real estate guru around town. Like, you one of the pillars.
The man.
Like, I mean, for real, anything real estate around town, like, you're the gateway. You're like the traffic circle where everybody comes in and you go around a circle and you exit off in one direction or another. You're that traffic circle, man. You're in the middle of a whole lot of things, but that wasn't your only career in this life. That's not you're not a one-trick pony kind of thing. You got a long history, a long background. What did you do before you were in real estate?
You know, before even the law enforcement, I was in the military in the U.S. Army, and I was a military police officer there.
We won't hold that against you too much.
And then I went into law enforcement from there. But the crazy part about it is at 17 years old, I set out a plan, and it really came about. You know, my uncle was the first African-American sergeant, lieutenant, and captain of the Austin Police Department back in the 50s and on into the 60s and 70s. He retired from law enforcement right about the time that I got into law enforcement, and he was my the role model in regards to that. He was that example of success and what it looked like, you know, right in my own family. And I said, you know what, if it worked for him, I can just follow in his footsteps and it'll work for me. And the crazy part about it, he was also in real estate. He wasn't a real estate broker, but he was an investor. And I first started in real estate as an investor.
So wait, did you choose this, like, or did you get forced into it? Or you were just like, oh no, that's what I work for Dad, so I'm gonna do it?
No, I was really one of those. He was my uncle, so he was really just a role model of seeing what success looked like. And in my family, you know, growing up in Austin, Texas, you know, we were on Section 8 housing, food stamps, just making it. So this was what I saw as success, you know, in living color in my family, you know. So it was just he set a blueprint that I just followed.
A blueprint's important. I mean, and we talk so much about so many, you know, young men growing up today without a good father, a role model, or even without a blueprint, or just kids in general. But having something like that, so it's great to know that you had that background where you're like, all right, that's working. I'm gonna do that. Yeah. Because a lot of us are just like, I'm not sure what's going on, so I'm just gonna have to figure this out as I go along. And I think that's a lot of times where some of the weakness and mindset or the negative beliefs that kind of get buried in there as a child, where you're like, I don't know if I can make this work. I don't know if I can make this happen, or I don't know if I'm capable, because there may not have been a good example around.
And I think that speaks to a lot of us as men these days in our generation. A lot of us did not have some kind of example, something to look forward to, as, whether you want to call it a role model or whether you want to call it just an image of what could be. So a lot of us didn't have that. And so some certain concepts could be foreign to us just because we never saw that. A lot of us grew up with, we find ourselves being husbands and fathers, like I'll speak for myself anyway, not having any clue what a husband or a father was, at least a healthy one, or, a positive one. And so, being able to grow up and to see that, man, it makes a huge difference generationally, just to show the next generation what's even possible, from the little things to the big things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, and I think for me, there's a Tony Robbins quote where he says, if you want to be successful, find someone that has achieved the level of success that you're looking for and copy what they do until you achieve the same results. And really, unbeknownst to me, I was following that principle without even realizing it. But then once I heard that quote, I apply that to everything that I do. If I'm moving into a different area of business, I'm seeking out the people that are successful in that area and finding the ones that are willing to mentor and share what they know. And one of the things I always tell them, I will not waste your time. If you tell me what to do, if you tell me to run through a brick wall, give me the helmet, let's go. Because I'm going to follow, if those are the things that it takes to be successful, then I'm going to follow those things.
Now, I know a lot of us have, we read Tony Robbins, we watched the documentary, we read a lot of the books, and not having maybe the experience of that. Can you talk a little bit about what it is like to have that experience? I know I've had that kind of same mindset or thought that I'm going to learn from these guys. And then because of my background and, a lot of the kind of unconscious negative beliefs inside my mindset, I'm like, I know they want me to do this. I know I should do this, but everything in me is going, don't do that. And so then, of course, results often harsh, always fair. My results aren't exactly always what I want them to be. So having that mindset of, okay, I'm going to follow somebody who's successful and do whatever they tell me, even if I don't understand it. Can you talk a little bit to that?
Yeah, that comes with two things. You have to have an unwavering belief, number one, in that person, but also in yourself. In whatever it is that you're getting ready to step into, you have to believe that you can achieve what it is that you're seeking. And you have to have belief in that person that you're following as well. And I've mentored countless number of people. And one of the first things that I tell them, because people seek me out for mentorship, and I tell them everybody wants a mentor, but not everybody wants to be mentored. Meaning, you want this person that you can say, this is my mentor, but when they start giving you, the goods of what it's going to take to take your life to another level, you're like, I got my ways of doing things. I'm going to do it this way. And my response to that is, your ways of doing things have got you to where you are right now. If you're happy with that, then keep doing it that way. But if you're not, then you got to look at doing things a different way.
And I think, I almost think I'm kind of getting to the point, I just crossed over 50. And I'm kind of getting to the point now where I think, as a man, before we leave this life, we almost have a moral obligation to leave something behind for the next generation. I think everything we have will be someone else's in terms of this life. Yep. Your debt, your assets, maybe even your spouse, kids, you name it, whatever it is. The only thing that can't be somebody else's is a legacy, right? And so we all have almost a moral obligation to leave a legacy behind. So it's like, what am I going to leave behind to somebody else? How can I transfer something in? And you live long enough, you're going to have some wisdom.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to make enough mistakes, or you're going to learn enough or grow, whatever. You're going to have something to pass on to somebody else. And so I think, this is a prime example of how we got to be determined before we leave here to leave something behind for somebody else, to replicate anything that we've learned in the form of wisdom, to the next generation.
Yeah, even if it's a bad example, that's something you can leave behind. If you can save somebody time by saying, hey, don't do what I did because I was hard-headed, I had a negative belief system, and so I didn't make correct, successful choices. But if you don't do what I did and listen to what I'm telling you not to do, or, even a bad example can be a great benefit to somebody to save them time and energy so they don't make those same mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, legacy is kind of one of the key words for me because, the personal development journey started at probably right at about 40. And prior to that, I had never picked up a personal development book. I knew who Tony Robbins was, but never really followed anything. The very first book I picked up was Think and Grow Rich. Mm. And, it was written in 1936, the same year my mother was born. So 87 years ago. And, here it is. Napoleon Hill passed away in 1970. And I was born in 1968. And it was about 2008 that this book, at 40 years old, this book had a significant impact on me that took me on my personal development journey from there. And that, for me, it said legacy, because here it is. He had been gone for, 38 years. He had gone from this life, but everybody knows right now who Napoleon Hill is. 50 years from now, people will know who Napoleon Hill is because of the book that he wrote and the impact that it's had on people. So that put me on a journey. In 2020, I wrote my first book. Here it is, 2023, and now I've written 3 Amazon bestsellers, and it's all about living for legacy. It's not about necessarily having success. My success, I look at it as, when it's all said and done, who do I impact? Who do I inspire? It's not the things that I achieve, but the things that I help other people achieve now is what's more important to me.
That's why we keep writing books. Even if nobody reads them, there's legacy right there.
And the tricky part is, with technology now, it's easier to leave stuff behind. It's easier to leave wisdom behind, whether it's, self-publishing books, whether it's hitting the go live button on your phone, or whether it's recording a video and uploading it to YouTube that'll outlive you, right? And so technology has made it so much easier to have an impact, to actually leave something behind for somebody else, that you can be long gone and still be talking to what could potentially be your grandkids or great grandkids or somebody else's great grandkids or whatever, and impact the one person, even if it's some kind of micro impact. Speaking of an impact,
you want to make an impact?
Let's make an impact. Let's make an impact with a break. Let's impact this break.
Let's do that.
What do you think?
Let's do it.
Mad Men and Masculinity, KLDC, 1220 a.m. in the Mile High City. We'll be right back.
When you think of buying or selling real estate, there's a name you can trust to serve your best interest. When you want knowledge and VIP service, there's one person you want. Barry Overton, Realtor.
And we're back. Mad Men and Masculinity on KLDC, 1220 a.m. in the Mile High City. We got our main man, Barry Overton, in the house.
That's right. You said your uncle had a big impact, but he couldn't stop you from joining the Army.
Yeah.
Wow.
See, that's why I make fun of it, because both my parents are Army. I still went to the force.
Be all you can be. U.S. Army, you believed all them commercials.
Of course, I didn't realize until after the fact that the Army promotes a whole lot faster than the Air Force. Who's
laughing now?
I know, it's the largest force. So yeah, I'm poking around as an A1C with my 2 stripes, and all people my age got like 3-4 stripes, getting sergeant pay. I'm like, man.
So you got out of the military, and then you went into the civilian sector. You said, and in terms of civilian sector, still civil service. Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I was a police officer first in Anniston, Alabama. So
I'm from Alabama.
Are you really
kidding, man?
Okay.
Shoot.
Yeah. So I was Fort McClellan is where I was a military police officer. Got out, little town of Anniston's right outside the gates there. Mm-hmm. Got on with the local department for a couple of years, and I think I spent about 2 years there. Topped out at $20,000 a year.
Nice.
Yeah. it wasn't nice getting shot at for 20,000 a
Hey,
year.
back then that was good money, right?
No, not really. So I applied. Actually, I applied for Austin TV, Houston, and I had family here in Denver, so I applied for Denver as well. Denver came through first, and got into the academy in '92, and loved every minute of my time with Denver PD. I spent 21 years with Denver, 26 years total in law enforcement.
Wow. All right. Tell us some stories. Can you tell us some stories, or is there some NDAs that you had to sign when you came out?
You've probably seen a lot of change though in that time period from over the city. I mean, in the city over the course of that time.
Yeah. So just last week was Police Week. It's a national week of recognition for law enforcement. And for the last 7 years, what I've done is I give back to law enforcement. So we have 6 district stations for Denver PD. Each day, I provided lunch for each district station. So it's a long week for me, but it's really one of those things of being able to just give back. And it's become so important since the civil unrest that we had after the George Floyd death, and realizing, when that was also during the pandemic. And so I had to postpone in 2020, in May of 2020, because we were right in the middle of the height of the pandemic. So when I went back to the district stations in September, since we had postponed it, man, I saw a different type of cop. They were, the morale was low. They were not, in a good headspace. And that's when it became more of a passion project for me doing these luncheons, because I knew being on the job how you don't hear thank you. I would say you don't hear it enough, but you don't hear it at all, really, in most cases from the community. And now they were in a place where, they weren't getting thank you. They were getting a different type of you that was being told to them. And they basically were, they were just beaten mentally, emotionally. And so it became important that, I brought mortgage companies, different people that came in, retired officers, just so they could see that there's an appreciation for law enforcement and what they do. And so that's been really a passion project for me since retiring, staying connected with law enforcement.
Well, it sounds like you're really helping to support that mindset, that positive mindset, because I'm sure law enforcement's probably ranks up there with like dentists and some of these other professions that are kind of thankless, and the self-cancellation rate is probably much higher than a lot of other things, but it's because there's a lack of appreciation, a lack of, hey, good job. And we run into it all the time when the boss gets stressed out, then instead of him being like, hey guys, good job, it's we need to do this, you guys need to do that, and then we're all like, well, hey, hang on a second, what happened to we're making it happen, we're in the black, we're doing a good job, but sometimes that mindset of, okay, let's not get caught up in the minutia and the mire of the negativity. We know we're stressed. Let's still focus on being, more positive and towards the end goal.
Yeah. I always tell people that you don't call the police when things are great or good in your life. You call when it's the worst moment in your life. Things are going bad. So you think about it from a law enforcement perspective, that's all you deal with are negative situations over and over again, day after day after day. And what happens is you become very jaded. You become, very cynical. And I can say that because I was that guy. I remember, like I said, my personal development journey started at 40. Well, at 39 up to 21, when I was a police officer, I was that guy that, very jaded. I was the one that would lead the negative conversations. And so when I started, listening to personal development, reading personal development, I saw the change in me because I realized at about 42, 43, a couple of years into it, I couldn't be in those negative conversations anymore. I was the one leading the charge a few years prior, but now I couldn't even be around it.
Yeah, and it's something. Just talking about the mind, the science behind the mindset. Just how our brains are wired. The reticular activating system if you haven't ever played the game, it happens to all of us though when we buy a car, like, oh, I want the black Mercedes, or I want the red truck, and then as soon as you get it, you see them everywhere because now you're wired to see it. So if we're wired for negativity, it's all we see. But if we can change the wiring to positivity, or to at least maybe a goal that we want to achieve, at least we're looking in that direction. So our brain will bring us more evidence of that versus wiring it for, oh, it's negativity, I'm jaded, and it all is no good, and that's all you see.
See, we didn't even, I love it because we didn't even plan this or script this or whatever, but this feeds right into just the mindset of men.
Yeah.
I mean, the mindset of men around us, men in our community, men that we love and support and live life with. It's real easy as a guy to get the jaded mindset of just life in general, like this grind. Like, man, all I do is just wake up and grind, and my job is, as a man, is just to sacrifice, just to give and serve and sacrifice and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not supposed to complain because, then I'm weak and I'm soft, and a guy, I'm just supposed to suck it up. And if I'm single, then I got to, then I'm jaded about women, and, it's easy to get jaded about the dating scene, and it's easy to just get negative about all that kind of stuff. But from a guy, what a lot of guys experience, these days in many aspects of their life, whether it be financial, professional, relational, you name it, it's really easy for us to get stuck in these cycles. And that's why a lot of us spin out of control and think, man, it's not even worth being here.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of hit right on something for me in law enforcement. So, we talk about PTSD in the military, but we haven't talked a whole lot about it in law enforcement. And, I served in the Gulf War, served 3.5 years in the military. 6 months of that, I was in a war. But 26 years in law enforcement, every day that I showed up, I was potentially in a war. I was dealing with things on a daily basis that, were dangerous. And just in DPD alone, in the last 5 years, I've had 6 people that I know commit suicide, 6 police officers. Most of them were retired. And so that's another thing that I played a big role in, is the peer support for retired officers, because see, when you're on the job, you are on, and you're constantly going, and you have this, you have to have composure, and you have this shield that's up, all the time. But once you retire and that shield, starts to come down and you become more relaxed, all these demons that you kind of fought off for so many years are now coming at you, and they're winning in many cases. So this was one of the things you hit the nail on the head, Kurt, when you talked about weakness. As a police officer, you think, I'm the guy that solves everyone else's problems, but I can solve my own problem. And I'm not going to talk to a therapist or go to counseling to fix that. That's weakness. Well, that was the thing that I learned for myself. Just about that same time, around that age of 40, I realized, okay, I can't fix all the things that are going on with me, and I have to be vulnerable and go to a professional and have these conversations. And man, that was the game changer for me. So I'm going through this personal development journey at the same time that I'm finding out who Barry really is. And it's the guy that I was. I always say there's two lives that I've lived: the guy before 40 and the guy after 40. And the guy after 40 is just a much happier guy in a much better place.
It sounds like you kind of did a similar thing. I was younger. I think I was like 37, 38 when I finally really got into personal development and started to learn about all the things going on inside me that I had no idea before, and why I was getting these results. But I think we're going to start a new trend now. So instead of having a midlife crisis in our 40s, we're going to have a personal development upgrade in our 40s.
Yeah.
But it's that same sort of thing of, we talk about it so much, and because of how the community and how society is set up for men to be strong and be stoic and not be weak, when we have these occasions where something's wrong, if you haven't crossed that bridge to therapy, if that's still a big bad unknown and you think I can't do that, that's when you talk to other guys, especially those of your peers that have similar experience. Because when you start to actually be brave and say, hey, I'm feeling this, or I'm having these struggles, and somebody else goes, oh yeah, I deal with that every day, and you're like, oh, I'm not the only one. And then maybe those people can guide you towards a healthy outlet of somebody who you can trust to work with, because not dealing with that, not actually talking it out and getting the wisdom, what is it Dr. Joe says, a memory without the emotional context is wisdom. When you don't have the emotion attached to that memory anymore, or that trauma, or whatever that thing is, you gain the wisdom of that. And that's part of that legacy we were talking about, where you can share that wisdom. But you can't share that wisdom if you haven't dealt with what the issue is.
See, Jason gets on my nerves sometimes.
Am I reading your mind again?
He gets on my nerves sometimes because he steals my thunder. He gets ahead of me in my thought process. And man, I just want to reach across this thing. Because what I was thinking, the thing that popped into my head when I heard you talk about this kind of an awakening and just a realization of a lot of things in that transitional phase of your life. I don't know this, but I'm going to suspect that in that also included surrounding yourself with other good, healthy, supportive men.
Yeah, no doubt. And again, it was one of those things of prior to 40, feeling like, I am the man. I don't need mentorship. I don't need, people that have had success around me, to being the very opposite. Is I seek people that are more successful than I am, so that I can continue to grow, because we never stop growing. We never stop learning. If we do, we're at the point of dying at that point. So it's a whole different way of looking at life, and being able to just know that there's so many people out there that know more than I do. And if they're willing to share, I'm willing to listen.
Nice.
It's like the lone wolf is never going to live longer than the wolf that lives in a pack. Right. I mean, that's just kind of one of the realities that come with age. And it is a mindset kind of thing in terms of the transition I think we make when we get older. I think, ideally we get to the point where we realize I can't do this by myself. Like I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna survive. I can't be successful in any kind of way if I'm gonna do this thing by myself. And I mean, I think that's probably one of the biggest ahas and transitions that I can say, that has come to me for sure over the past several years and in this phase of life.
Yeah, you know what you can help me with right now, Don?
I bet I do.
What do you think?
I bet I can help you with a break.
You better break it out.
I'm gonna break us out of here.
Break us off.
Masculinity, KLDC 1220 AM. We'll be right back.
When you think of buying or selling real estate, there's a name you can trust to serve your best interest. When you want knowledge and VIP service, there's one person you want. Barry Overton, Realtor.
And we're back, y'all. Madmen of Masculinity with Barry Overton, Realtor Extraordinaire, Superman in Denver. Mm-hmm. We're talking about mindset. We're talking about beliefs. And there's something you talked about in the first segment about having that strong belief. And I think that was one of the things that I'm getting better at, but it's such an ingrained thing where there's just that unconscious, just ingrained belief from childhood that either it's not going to work, or I'm not good enough, or in relationships, it's like, oh, if they really got to know me, they wouldn't love me, and all these different little things that tend to challenge the belief. When you do the personal development, they're like, all you got to do is do the work and keep the mindset and set your goals, and break your goals down, and make sure you follow through. But then in the back of your mind, there's that belief going, well, that doesn't really jive with the beliefs I've been carrying around all the time. Was there any point in time where you kind of had to go, all right, my beliefs are no longer serving me, and I've got to change these? And, kind of how did you go about that?
And I think a big part of it is we all believe something. Mm-hmm. We all believe something about ourselves. We all believe something about the job that we're doing, the relationships that we're in. And the thing about it is so we have the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind never sleeps. So what we say, to ourselves in regards to what we say about ourselves, what we say about our relationships, what we say about how we feel about our job or our business, the subconscious mind is constantly recording that. And that's where the belief is formed. So when you want to start to change the belief, you have to change what you are saying to the subconscious mind. So I'm a huge believer in affirmations And, Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, that was one of the principles in the book. And, it was written in 1936. So then he talked about writing your affirmations down every morning, reading them, and then writing them down every night before you go to bed and reading them. But now, because we live in this day and age where you can record your own voice, saying your affirmations, press play, and have it loop all night. Now because the subconscious mind never sleeps. Now you're feeding that to your mind. It's just like you can learn Spanish through Rosetta Stone by listening to it over and over at night. Same thing. And what the one voice that we all hear all the time is our own voice. So you're going to believe that voice more than any. So for many years, I always talk about practice believing. Part of that practice was the affirmations and recording myself saying it and saying it as though the things that I wanted, the goals that I was shooting for, I was saying it as it already happened, because I was tricking the subconscious mind to believe, okay, this guy is already making $1 million a year. This guy is already, at certain levels in real estate. Because I was saying that, the Bible says, call forth those things that be not as though they were. And so I was just following that scripture and following those principles.
It's funny you say, you talk about, our own voice. And, I've always said, man, the devil's a ventriloquist, because that voice in the back of my head that gets me off track and sideways sure did sound like mine. It sure did sound like a great idea, because it was really familiar in a really familiar voice. And so it's kind of a paradigm shift to think that, well, what if I put some positivity to that voice? And what if I put that in the back of my mind, if you will, or even in the forefront of my mind, to work through my beliefs to affect and impact my mindset, and the mindset that I wake up with every day of, what is my outlook today? What is my outlook for my life? What is my outlook for my longevity? What is my outlook for my relationship? All those kinds of things. And so, just the power of, the power of putting some positivity to the belief system that we have, and having that be the steering wheel to drive our lives in the direction we want to go in. Man, that's kind of profound in my opinion.
Yeah. What you said reminds me of Napoleon Hill's book that he wrote after Think and Grow Rich, Outwitting the Devil.
I was going to ask if you had that one.
Yeah. And I don't know if you know the story behind it, but he wrote Think and Grow Rich in 1936, wrote Outwitting the Devil in 1937, but I believe it was 2008 when Outwitting the Devil was released, because it was just the concern from his wife was it's going to be so controversial, and it was going to be very difficult for him to, just kind of move forward, as an author and as someone that people looked up to. But I tell you, that book, it probably had a bigger impact on me than Think and Grow Rich from this perspective. The first 10 minutes of reading the book, Napoleon Hill is interviewing the devil, and the devil tells him, he said, I will answer any question that you ask me, but you have to do one thing. You have to refer to me as your majesty. And Napoleon Hill asked him why. And he said, because I'm the ruler of this world, and I rule through two things, fear and doubt. And that, when I understood, every time that in my mind, I'm going through something and I'm fearful of taking the steps to achieve a goal, or I'm doubting myself or doubting the ability to do it, right there, I know the devil is at work in my mind, and our fight starts right then and there, because I'm not going to let him win that one.
That is profound. I mean, that gave me chills, because that's one of those things. It is very true, and I've listened to it and I've read it, but hearing you say it just now really brought it home. Like, when I am afraid, because anytime you're changing a mindset, anytime you're changing a belief, anytime you're doing something new and creating new neural pathways, it's going to generate fear, because it's the unknown. Mm-hmm. And what are we most afraid of? Things we don't understand, and the unknown out in the world. So having that concept of, okay, that's how the devil rules me, is through fear and doubt. And so if I'm having fear, that's him trying to pull me back. So maybe now I can move forward with more of an enlightened mindset of, okay, that fear is just directing me. Okay, if I'm afraid of it, I should probably go that direction.
Right. And I mean, I think in actuality, the opposite happens more often, where I'm talking we collectively, we can experience the fear and the doubt, and we run from it. We escape from it. We medicate it. Maybe we medicate it with a substance, or maybe we medicate it with a habit. We medicate it with something where we want to escape all of that, as opposed to confronting all that.
Yeah.
But you're never going to kill a dragon by running from it. You're never gonna slay that thing unless you put on the armor and you go out and face it, head on, sword to the flame that's coming out of his mouth. And so many things that we challenge, or that challenge us, are just opportunities to confront something and to realize the strength that we have within, to not only face that dragon, but to kill that dragon. Not only to face that demon, but to kill that demon. And I'm talking somebody that overcame addiction. I'm talking, from that perspective of, I ran from that my whole life. But in actuality, when I confronted it and I realized, wait a minute, man, I'm not as weak and as much of a sucker as I thought I was. Matter of fact, I might be dope enough to help other people with this whole thing. And so, I think in this context, it was that belief that changed the mindset, and the mindset that changes other people's lives. And, and I think it's just a profound thought. It's a profound concept.
Yeah, I love a lot of what's going on, and what we're talking about now is that when you take what you have, when you take your past of addiction, of trauma, of pain, and you work through it and then share that with somebody else going through the same thing. If you are ever worried about, I can't find my purpose, look at your past, look at your traumas, look at your pains. Those are going to lead you right to your purpose, because I guarantee you, somebody dealing with an addiction would much rather talk to somebody who has dealt with an addiction than somebody who hasn't and doesn't know what they're talking about. Because what we impart, what we can understand in somebody else, is something we've gone through and dealt with ourselves. So make sure that if it's something that you're like, I can't find my purpose, you guys are talking about purpose. It's not that hard if you are willing to be vulnerable and say, hey, this is what I've dealt with, and now I want to help somebody else with it.
Which circles right back to where we almost started off with mentorship. The idea of being a mentor, but receiving mentorship. I mean, that's exactly what that is. And it's, once you've been through some stuff, then you're in a position to help other people, to mentor other people, and you're also in the position to maybe get some leadership, or some guidance, or some mentorship yourself.
Yeah, I often think when I'm going through a challenge or a struggle, that in that moment, that my struggle and how I get through it is the blueprint for someone that I haven't even met yet. It's, so I embrace it at that point, because I know here it is that I've told myself, okay, my purpose is to serve and impact and inspire others. But it's hard to do that if I haven't gone through anything. And it's just like you said, Jason, you're not going to take the advice of someone in regards to addiction if you haven't been through it, if you haven't experienced it. And so when you're in that moment, I think that's one of the things that we have to remind ourselves, because when we're in the storm and we're in the struggle, the last thing that we're usually thinking about is, okay, this is to help somebody else. Right. You kind of go into a woe is me of, man, how am I going to deal with this? But if you have that mindset of, here's the devil's at work, but what the devil meant for harm, God will make good. And we're going to be able to use this to help somebody else down the road.
And I think this is, and we're going to come back in our fourth segment. Right now you're into real estate, you're EUR real estate, and we're going to get into, that in our fourth segment here. But I think it matters, because in part of that journey for you, you help bring people along in their careers, people that are either getting into the industry or people that are trying to grow their business into that industry. You're also a resource to some of these people. So, you're talking from what you do. Yeah. And so, the whole idea of having been through some stuff, when I have a hour and a half long conversation, like I did last night with my son, who was brand new in the military, and being able to speak, he's like, hey, I got some advice. Should I go to this school, or should I just go out into this and that? And so being able to talk to him, with some advice, and being that father figure, that friend, that coach, that whatever he needs, something I never had. But at the same time, being able to offer that. This is why this stuff is important to us as men, not only amongst peers, amongst our peer circle, but even from generation to generation.
Yeah, it's definitely this is probably the best commercial for your real estate business, because people would be like, dude, that dude's cool. I want to work with him. Like, he's been through it. He's seen it. He knows what's up. And, doing the personal development and being just so laid back and cool, but having all that experience and wisdom to pass on. And it's not just about real estate. I bet you they get like a Tao Te Ching of real estate from Barry when you mentor them, because there's so much more. I bet you're just teaching them. That's not just even about houses.
There's people in the industry from an agent perspective or broker perspective wanting to, in it from a business perspective, but there's also a mentality shift from the person wanting to buy a home, for example, thinking, and nobody's in my family ever owned a home before. How do I own? I've never owned a home before. How do I? And I can't buy a house. What are you talking about, man? You know who I am and all that kind of stuff. So it is a mind shift, man. Speaking of shift.
Oh, you want to shift?
Let's shift, man.
Shift to the house.
Shift to our last break, man. Let's get up in this break. Madmen of Masculinity, 1220 AM, KLDC. We'll be right back.
When you think of buying or selling real estate, there's a name you can trust to serve your best interest. When you want knowledge and VIP service, there's one person you want. Barry Overton, Realtor.
And we're back.
Madmen of Masculinity on KLDC. We got Barry L. Overton in the house.
Hey, what's cooler than cool? Ice cold.
There it is.
This brother right here is ice cold, man.
And we're making the longest, best Barry commercial in the world. Man's a realtor. He's like, let's talk about real estate. We're like, hang on.
Yeah.
For 45 minutes, we're talking about something totally different.
Yeah. We're going to get into mindset and then.
Yeah. But this is going to be, let's focus on the real estate side of things. Like, what's going on in the real estate market? What can you tell the people out there? And if you guys are looking for a home, I mean, you've heard this man's story. You know how cool he is. Like, maybe this is your man when it comes to finding a house. What do you say, man? What's going on in the world out there?
Yeah, it's obviously we had the interest rates that started to go up about this time last year. And I would say it slowed down the market a little bit, but we are still at very low inventory right now. So, if you price your house right and it's in, based off of the price, it's, in good condition, things of that nature, your property's still going to move. It's going to sell pretty quickly. I'm having listings that are still going under contract in a weekend. But I do have other properties where, people are trying to get more. Because again, we have seen a price adjustment in regards to where things were at, but we needed it. It's far too often for, from probably 2018 till right about March of last year, we were talking about, okay, are we going to hit the bubble? And I wouldn't say we really hit a bubble, but we did see where the prices start to stabilize and then actually started to dip down. I've seen over the past probably 4 to 5 months where prices are starting to go up, but not as quickly as they have been, which is good. Because, man, it's sad to say, but there's so many people, so many clients that I have now that are leaving Colorado. They're selling their house here in Denver and going to other parts of the country where, it's more affordable.
Speaking of more affordable, what was up with those estimates? Like, I had several realtor friends, and all of a sudden they're like, my house just got estimated like $200,000-300,000 more than I even expected. Like, what was up with that?
So I got that whole tax. I was like, say what? And then I actually had an attorney that specialized in some of that. I kind of had an attorney that looked through doing an appeal, and he actually came back saying, well, based on the columns, they kind of got it right with yours.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people are getting that letter like, say what? I got it now. What? And then I got to pay more. What?
Yeah. Yeah, and I've taken a lot of those calls. I actually have a training coming up for my team this week where we're coaching them on how to handle that for their clients. I can tell you, I got mine. We've been in our house coming up on 3 years. In about a 2-year period, the the statement that we got said we went up 138,000, but when I did the numbers on it, they're about 50,000 short. We went up about 188,000. So we're gonna just kind of let that one.
Don't see enough.
We're trying to balance out things with all these people that are paying too much. So, but so I definitely would suggest for anyone that has concerns in regards to if you think that it's not accurate, to reach out to a real estate professional and have them do a CMA, because you can dispute it. But what a lot of people are finding, because I've done some where I was like, they're kind of right on. It's just that's the market that we've been in. So I think it really was an eye opener for people to realize how much their value's gone up. And before the taxes came out, I think people knew their values were shooting up, and they were excited about it. But then when you got to pay taxes on it, it's like, oh, wait a minute.
Oh, man.
But it is kind of like, you do have the equity. And so, you got to look at it like, well, okay, I got some money in my property, if you have a property kind of thing. So you almost got to kind of own that thing. But then is there, should people, obviously you're not giving anybody specific advice and all that kind of stuff, all that legal jargon. But if I have equity in my home, could it be an opportunity to do something with that equity?
Oh yeah, definitely. I just taught at a church this weekend about, if you got 3, 5 or more years that you've owned your property, you got some pretty strong equity more than likely. And what I always share with people is, okay, if you've had this house, let's say it's grown 150,000 in the last 2 years, you got 150,000 equity. That's great, but what are you doing to put it to work? So what if we take out, say, 75,000 of it, 50% of it, and move it into 2 townhomes? You buy 2 different townhomes and put like 37,500 down on each. And now you have 3 properties. Guess what? You still have 150,000 equity. It's just spread out on 3 properties. And now you have 2 properties that are positive cash flow because you have renters in there. And then you also have 3 properties total that are appreciating in value instead of 1 property appreciating in value. So now you're multiplying. This is how wealth is created in real estate.
Now, for all those guys that just started freaking out and now they're trying to look at townhomes and stuff like that, what are the things they need to know? Because obviously for most folks, they're not going to have their houses paid off. They're still going to have a mortgage. So you were saying like 3 to 5 years. Is there a specific time limit they should be aware of before they start looking to take their equity out and reinvest?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's going to probably, even 2 years, you're probably going to be in pretty decent shape. But, I have people that bought this time last year that either they're right about where they purchased at, they may be a little bit higher, but there's not a whole lot of equity because they probably dipped in the summer and now they're just kind of rebounding right now. So ideally, I would say 3 years, where you would have a significant amount where you could take a piece of it, purchase another property, and really, if you have 1 property, now you just doubled your real estate portfolio.
Do I have to get my, in order to take equity out, do I have to get my financial situation straight? Do I got to get my credit right and all that other kind of stuff in order to do that?
Yeah, you definitely, because you're going to be doing a home equity line of credit. It is the best and easiest way to do it. It's almost like applying for a credit card. When you get a mortgage, you feel like the CIA is sitting you down and asking you a bunch of questions and looking in, to everything with a fine-tooth comb. When you do a home equity line of credit, it's not, as intense. I've seen people get approved on, $100,000 line of credit in a week's time. So it's a much faster process. The money, they say, okay, you got 100,000 available. You don't even have to pull it right at that point. You just have it available to you, and when you are ready to pull the trigger, you can pull it out.
All right, a couple minutes here that we got left. I want to pivot a little bit. What about people who may be interested in getting into the real estate industry as a realtor or broker or whatever the titles are? Is it could somebody could it be a good time for somebody to possibly do a career change, or should it be like, you might want to wait a little bit?
No, I think anytime you are ready to do something in your life, it's a good time. And again, we've had 30,000+ real estate agents that were licensed. One of the things that we are starting to see right now is a weeding out, so to speak, because again, those that were doing just a little bit of business or no business are now finding, okay, to do business now, it's even harder. It's not as easy as it was when we were in this crazy seller's market. We're still in a seller's market, but you do have to work. And so that could be the time. I have a young man that just joined my organization March 6th. He got his license. We just celebrated his first closing a couple of days ago. So about 2 months into real estate, and he's already closed his first deal. And when I sat down with him, I said, "You're going to kill this thing," because his mindset, I saw it, having this conversation with him. I saw a younger version of me that was just getting started. And I was like, "Man, you're about to kill this." And that's one of the things that, I think is a gift for me, just being able to recognize really good talent.
Now, for somebody who is thinking about it because they've seen the market and they got dollar signs in their eyes, what should they expect? I mean, I know for a lot of my friends who got into real estate, there's several months to sometimes a year before, that they got a plan for before they can really have the time to get successful.
Yeah, I think what they can expect is, you got money that you got to spend on the front end. You're going to have to do work, especially if you've never worked in a business like real estate and you're coming into a whole new arena. There's a learning curve, and that's where that mentorship and following that mentorship on the beginning is so important. I tell you, the folks that I've seen that have the most success are those that are open to following the mentorship and doing those things that they're being asked to do by a mentor, without question and without doubt, just doing it and believing and trusting in the person that they asked to be their mentor.
And I think, this is a shameless plug, and I'm okay saying it, but I think that's also why it's good to connect with somebody like you, somebody that is connected, that is very well connected, and not only in the industry but just in the community. And you got some growth rings on your tree trunk, and you've experienced some stuff and you've seen some stuff, and so it's great to partner with. Again, circling all the way back to, it's great to partner with somebody that can provide some level of mentorship, provide some level of direction and guidance. And so, all that being said, if somebody is looking to either do some kind of transaction in real estate and or possibly reaching out to you for for mentorship or partnership or any of that kind of stuff, how do folks get a hold of you?
Yeah, the easiest way I would say is my cell phone, 303-668-5433. I respond to texts. I pick up on calls all the time, all day. And but I'm on social media. I'm Barry L. Overton on Facebook, and then just keep it simple. Barry Overton on Instagram, Barry Overton on LinkedIn, and I put a lot of content out. Most of the content is value content for buyers and sellers, of showing you different strategies of really how to win in this real estate market.
Nice. So growth rings, really? That's how we're. That's how we're.
That's a new thing.
That's how we're.
He's a tree, man. Right? He's a redwood. He's a redwood tree, man. He got growth rings. He didn't just happen. You know what I'm saying? There was some aging, some weathering, some stuff that happened to get to that point.
Right on. All right. Well, thank you for bringing your growth rings into the studio, sir. And we appreciate.
Come on, man. I went to public school, man. Don't make fun of me, man. I did graduate. Don't make fun of me, man.
I love it. Any acronym for aging that doesn't sound like I'm old sounds good to me. So, thank you all for listening. Make sure you hook up with Barry. Make sure you get on YouTube and like and subscribe our content. And until next time, Madmen out.